Welcome to another episode of Bengals and Brews. Today I'm going to be joined by Ace Boogie, also aka at New Stripe City on Twitter, co-host of Wincinnati Pod, AFC North, and also has the New Stripe City clothing line at newstripecity.com. Make sure you check all of that stuff out. How we doing today, Ace?
Man, I appreciate that. I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. We're a week off of the first round Dax Hill pick. Excited about that still. Um, Wanted to have you on and first talk a little bit about the most recent news being our schedule. Partial schedule release. Not really anything for the Bengals, but a lack of anything for the Bengals, which to me is good news because I wanted Joe and Jamar to get to play in New Orleans. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, bro, I was right there with you. When they first talked about the schedule and said that we were playing the Saints, that's immediately where my mind went. Those guys going home, playing in New Orleans, kind of a homecoming. It will be a really interesting atmosphere, right? Like, are people going to wear Saints jerseys? Are they going to wear LSU jerseys? Are they going to be wearing Bengals jerseys? So I think it's only right that that game happened in the U.S., in the Superdome in Louisiana. I think that was the only option.
Yeah, and even I had some people that are like UK fan, our friends from over the pond that were like, I'm 36-year fan. One guy said, and he's like, I've seen him play once or twice, but he was like, he understood. He was like, I wanted that one. He said, I can wait a little longer. He said, those boys
Yeah, it
are ready
does
to
suck
go
for
back.
those over there
Yeah,
because, like you said, we have a ton of fans all across the world. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, there's Bengals fans over here in the U.S." and like we're worldwide, like India, UK, Mexico. So like we're all over the place. So it does suck for those guys out there that they don't get to see them. But the invitation is open for them to come over here. So
for
guys in the
sure.
UK, you're definitely welcome to take a trip to the Natty, come over, and enjoy some Bengals football.
Absolutely. Nothing more exciting really than going to a Bengals game. And I think they would probably love it even more. I'm sure they love just getting the games in general. But if they go to a game in the jungle, oh man, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, you gotta hit the tailgate, Bengal gym. You just gotta get the whole experience. Not saying that it isn't fun over there as well, but
For
I think
sure.
we know like whenever you find a Bengals fan, it's just like family. And if they do come over here, that is the experience that I feel like they would never forget.
Yeah, and that's what I love. Honestly, man, this was my first year having season tickets. Me and Derek didn't even know each other. I didn't know Strawberry. I didn't know, I didn't know hardly anybody that now I'm like consider really close friends. You just meet people, you start talking to them. It's like we're one big family for real.
Facts, facts. I mean, me and Zim, we talk like almost every other day, or if not every day. So, like you said, it just brings in that brotherhood for sure.
Yeah. Same with Derek, Orange Arrow co-host who had to go to work. He's got the weird. He'll work all night. Like he's headed to work now, and he'll work all night. So that's why we're like we try to do Saturdays, but we also got to accommodate everybody else. So and we've done that a few times, and it is Mother's Day weekend, and I didn't even think of that. Like so that's my
No,
bad on that. Um,
no, all good. You guys were very professional. We scheduled it way out. I didn't even realize it was Mother's Day, so no
yeah,
problem at all.
that kind of crept up on us with the draft so close. I think.
Yeah, facts, facts.
So with the schedule, how many primetime games do you think we'll have, and maybe which ones? I got kind of the schedule in front of me. If
I'm going to probably say there's about four of them. You have to make one of the divisional games. I think even possibly two of them could be a primetime game. I
I'd say the
think
Ravens,
The
you think it'll be one of
Ravens
them?
matchup, I agree with you. That one would have to be one. Watson, I don't think that they would risk putting him on national television right now.
Yeah, that's
Otherwise, I
risky.
would
Yeah,
say that one, but right now it's risky with the perception and everything. So I doubt that it's that one. But when you look at the rest of the schedule, I mean, Tom Brady versus Joe Burrow, that just screams prime time to me. You got to have that as a prime time game, which I'll be at, hopefully in attendance here down in Florida. And then you have to look at some of the other matchups. The Bills game, you would have to think that that would have to be up there. So I think there's a chance that they at least have four.
So do you live in Florida, Ace?
Yes. So currently, originally, I grew up in Cincinnati. I lived in Cincinnati for a long time, all the way almost until high school. I spent some part of my childhood in California, but I was born in Cincinnati. Was there. I actually went to AWL. That's how long ago I lived in Cincinnati. I was at Academy of World Languages, and then my parents ended up getting a divorce, and my mom went out to Cali. But throughout the summer, I would still be in Cincinnati, and then they got back together. We moved back to Cincinnati in like the early, probably around 2000. And then from there all the way until 2006, I was there. Then I came down to Florida for school, and I essentially ended up staying here. So I am originally from Cincinnati, but I currently live in Florida.
Yeah. That's you guys on your show, you need to have my boy Angelo Dawkins on sometime.
For sure.
From the
For
Street
sure.
Profits. He's down there in Florida as well. He lives in around the
Yeah,
Orlando
there
area.
are a lot of
Yeah.
Bengals fans in Florida,
Well,
like believe it
so
or not.
Bengals Whitney. I mean, we got Houday Baby. We got
Facts.
like Jer Bear. There's just tons of them. So I'd say that Buccaneers game is going to be a fun one.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be
Um,
crazy.
See, I got my eye out on the schedule for that, and then obviously New Orleans game would be a phenomenal road game to go to.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I've got my eyes on that one as well. Just got to get permission from the wife. If she gives me the green light, I'm in there for sure.
I had to take my wife with me. See, she goes with me to all the home games. So I can't
Facts.
see her let me go to New Orleans without her. She'd be like, nah.
Oh yeah, that's not happening.
But yeah, so I could see that Division 1 Buffalo game. Like that's one as far as our home game goes that I could see being in prime time as well. I mean, the Josh Allen, we were that close to having that as the AFC Championship game. And then you got the
Facts.
Chiefs, who we did play in the AFC Championship game. I could see that being another one. I've even heard, I don't know, a couple things. You know how Twitter is, you hear stuff all the time, but
Right.
that we could maybe open with the Chiefs on like a Sunday night game or something. Some people just kind of getting that feeling with, the way the schedule
Yeah,
set.
you could definitely see that because I think I remember when Cleveland and Kansas City had that real tough shootout where Chad anything is possible. Henny came out there with the victory. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the next season they opened up against them. So I could see something similar happening with the Bengals and the Chiefs. That'd be a good game. I'm ready to see that as well. I would like to get the three-peat against them as well.
And then that's home. So I know, see, there for a while, the Bengals never opened at home, but the last couple of years, they've had some home openers. So I could see, especially with the way the Reds are playing, that it's just like we don't even care what's going on. Maybe if the Reds have a game, they're like, we'll still open. Maybe
Right.
someone will come to the stadium. But
I agree with you. Definitely.
some road games I could see also, like you mentioned Tampa Bay. The Saints one, obviously, because we've kind of talked about that with Joe and Jamar, going there. I could see that one. And then my other one would be Dallas, just
Dallas.
because
That's a good one too, because the Cowboys are always going to be a draw. Cowboys plus Joe Burrow, yeah, yeah. Jamar Chase too, yeah. You kind of gotta show that one on TV. I'm
maybe
just
a
trying to.
Thanksgiving game.
I really feel like they should have like 5 or 6, but I'm just tempering my expectations because I'm going to be super pissed if they only get like 3 or something like that. I'm going to be like,
Well,
in what
I'm gonna be
world?
torn. I'm gonna be torn as a season ticket holder because, like, my job's a Monday through Friday. And
Ah,
that's gonna kill me. I'm gonna be
definitely.
taking a lot. Hey, I got days to take though, so I'm not too worried about it. But still, it's a whole. Then the wife works through the week too, so I'm like, man, that's the only thing. But there's nothing like a primetime game. And the Bengals, they've really stepped their game up. Like you guys were all at the Jags game, right?
Yeah, it was a ton of people out there. It was me, Zim, Yaz was out there, Joe Goodberry, Jake Lisco, Malik Wright, like literally the whole gang. Blake Jewell, and if I forgot anyone, sorry, but there were so many of us out there.
I
We
was
had a
hoping to
great
meet
time.
some people. Me and my wife. It was one of those things. We got off work. We made it there like around kickoff, or we might have even been a few minutes late. So that was one of the night games kind of kill us. But um, I was hoping to meet everybody. But it's just the whole stadium experience that they've done. Like they didn't do all those lights and all that stuff in the past, and they've really stepped everything up, and I appreciate that so much.
Oh yeah, you have to give and tip your hat off just to the organization, like everybody in the media department, everybody that just makes everything go. Like they've just really done a admirable job with not only the revamp of the roster, but just the organization in general.
Yeah, and it's like that was coming up, and as we're getting Joe Burrow, like everything's just kind of worked out. It's like it's meant to be. So
Facts.
I'm ready for another Super Bowl run.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for one as well, bro. I'm hoping that we have one like right around the corner, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially looking at this roster and what they did in the offseason through free agency, through the draft. I really literally was playing Madden with my son the other day. And this was after Dax Hill. This wasn't even after we drafted all of the other guys. And I was just looking at it, and this was our Super Bowl team. And I'm like, we're much better than this team. Like it's
The
kind of
line, man,
insane
the line.
to look at it and be like, man, the line, like you said, Hayden Hurst, like he's gonna bring another dimension, like just the depth behind guys. It's just like, and we added Dax Hill and all of these other guys to this, like, oh, and we're still not even done yet, possibly. Oh yeah, sign me up for that.
Yeah, when they ended up getting that Collins deal done, I was so hyped because I was happy with, Kappa and Karras alone. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're hitting the interior O line head on. But then it's like, you really want to set over the top, go get you that right tackle, solidify that position.
Yes.
When that finally got done, because man, I was starting to get worried finally there toward the end. I'm like, is he left town? Don't let him leave town, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, me and Zim, we were using our back alley channels and stuff like that. And we always were kind of confident just from talking to people that were close to the situation, that were aware. Like, we knew that he hadn't left Cincinnati. And so we were like, we knew that he wasn't leaving potentially into the morning. And we figured, all right, like, he wants to be here. They just have to get it done. Essentially, that's what happened. So
Yeah.
I just kind of chilled out. I remember that being a weekend I was out with the family, and I remember seeing everyone melting down on Twitter. And in my head, I was just like, guys, relax. We're
Yeah.
okay. It's all good. But
Yeah.
it was definitely an exciting time. And I think the fans being so excited, it was definitely a factor in what sold him on the city for sure.
I mean, the whole mall thing, like you just don't. I don't see this from, but I don't follow other fan bases. Maybe it does happen, but I don't. Our fan
Nah,
base don't
I
know
don't think
well
there's
sometimes.
I don't think like, and I've lived in Florida, I've been different places. I have never seen, I feel like, diehards like Cincinnati Bengals
Yeah.
fans. Like, we just connect off of any kind of news, like anything that's out there. Like, we
Bengals
just move
Twitter,
a little different
especially
for
all the
sure.
the everybody posting Lyle Collins at their house. He's here. He's there. Mel lady, he was on the route with her. Like, oh man, this stuff's hilarious. Um,
Yeah, that was classic for sure.
But let's get into the draft a little bit. So I know you guys have covered it on your show, and we've covered it on ours. People might be getting sick of hearing about it a little bit, but it's a small class, so it's easy to kind of go through it pretty quick. Dax
Definitely.
Hill, pick 31, loved it, best on the board. Little sad, Karloftis. That was kind of like I didn't let myself get my hopes up till about 3 days before, and I'm like, man, that's a top 15, top 20 dude all day, every day. I'm like, so if he slides to 31, I'm running that card up. And then I hear Lapham talking about it the night before on top of me already being excited about it. And I'm like, it might happen. So, but I had Dax Hill as really my best available player that the Bengals would have taken. I had like the Kobe Dean injuries, Andrew Booth injuries, and then Malik Willis, who's a quarterback.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to me, Dax Hill made perfect sense. I had my prime system that is basically based off of trends that the Bengals have done, and it gives them a rating out of 5. And Dax Hill was the top guy, so it made a lot of sense. They like guys that are versatile, not only just corners, but just guys in general. Like, and it's funny because I knew that just from studying the data. But then Duke Tobin said that he was like, also with offensive linemen, and those are just things that they just really value. And then they also value guys that come out of big programs. Dax, I think, fits the mold in a number of ways, right? He can still get on the field in various ways this season. He can also be potentially an insurance plan for if one of those safeties don't come back. So I thought Dax Hill was definitely a knockout of the park. But I was with you. Like, George Karlaftis, believe it or not, was actually number 1 on the prime board before they took him. Trent McDuffie was another guy that ended up going.
Oh, yeah.
And both of those guys
Damn
went to the
Chiefs.
Chiefs, right? I feel like the Chiefs tried to stick it to us, honestly, with both of those guys, thinking that we were going to take them and some other guys in the draft as well. I feel like the Chiefs kind of tried to stick it to us, but I think at the end of the day, for you to get Dax Hill, a guy that could potentially be the best safety out of this draft, because I definitely feel like he's way better in coverage than Kyle Hamilton for sure, and can do more things than him. So to get a guy that's a starter at 31 and generally a location where you're really just filling depth and stuff like that was a slam dunk.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and it's not just even us that kind of feel like Dax might be, the number one safety. I heard guys like Daniel Jeremiah and them talking about that like a few weeks before the draft. They're like, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes ahead of him. Like a lot of, and those guys are plugged in with teams, so there's a lot of teams that felt the same way. And we saw, Hamilton slide to 14, and I'm honestly surprised Dax slid to 31. But hey, his slide is our gain, so we'll take that and run with it. We got a heck of a player, and he's going to make an impact day one. His ability to tackle and blitz really, like we were talking about this morning, like him and Mike Hilton. What are you going to do when they're out there on the field together?
Right. Right. You just don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know whether Mike is blitzing. You don't know whether Dax is blitzing. You don't know, like, which guy is going to blitz. So you don't know which guy you want to actually put on them on offense. Like, if you do want to try to take advantage of Mike Hilton's height or something like that, you don't even know if that's happening, or they could switch Dax over there. So there's just so many things that they could do to really disguise what coverage they're in, what's actually happening. And they're never really going to be in a position of weakness, right? Like, that's generally what offenses try to do. They try to find a mismatch somewhere, and you're not really going to find that with all
Yeah,
of these corners and safeties, DBs on the field. Like, good luck. Good luck finding a mismatch, and good luck with the linebackers too, because
yeah.
Logan Wilson and Pratt are not slouches in coverage, as we saw in the Super Bowl.
That's what I was gonna say. Drop them both. They both fake a blitz. Drop them both. Then you bring Von Bell even, or Logan Wilson, or Jermaine Pratt. I mean, there's so many options, and I do like the way they went to more two linebackers, athletic linebackers. It's a passing. Look at the quarterbacks. Everybody's like, oh, the quarterbacks, the quarterbacks. We're staying a step ahead in this draft, in my opinion, by what we did, getting guys like Dax Hill, Tyson Anderson, Cam Taylor-Britt. Like, we're staying a step ahead of all of that. Like, hey, go get your weapons. And the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill. Yeah, they had a great draft, but they've lost some. They lost a phenomenal wide receiver.
That's
So
very true. And like you said, I think the Bengals are ahead of the curve, right? Like, this strategy, I think, is something that we've seen no one really do before. To my knowledge, I've never heard of anyone taking a bunch of safeties and corners when they already had some solid ones in front of them. So I think, like you said, they are doing something that could potentially set a trend with all of these teams going out and getting receivers and quarterbacks. What's the best way to counter that? Go get some cover guys. Go get some guys that you can mix up coverages with. Go get some guys that are athletic and fast. Go get some guys that are tall. Like, we can throw any type of corner at you. And that was one of the strengths of this defense last year. Now they've actually added in the talent and the potential of those guys that are in the reserve room. So I think that they're actually doing something that's really, like you said, forward thinking for sure.
yeah, I love it. And we'll just kind of continue with that with Cam Taylor-Britt. Another versatile piece. And I think the thing I liked about that pick the most was just how excited he seemed to be. Like, he's so ready to go, and that's a guy who's going to come in and compete his ass off. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on CBT?
So, to be honest with you, I had heard the name a ton, and he was a guy where it was either guys that knew of him were like really in on him, or you just wouldn't hear the name. Like, it just depended on which publication or which person you were listening to. And I always kind of kept my eye on him because there was another website that I follow, SIS Sports, that was pretty high on him, right? And after that, I was like, all right, well, I like the pick. Let me look more into this guy because I know that he fits certain traits that they were looking for. But I had to get more of a film analysis of him, right? And so the first tape I believe that I put on of him, which was a cut up of him versus Ohio State, right? We both know that Garrett Wilson and the Olave and the receivers that Ohio State puts out are not a joke, right? But I wanted to look at him versus a team like that, and they literally didn't target the guy, which I do cut the tape on all the time. I used to play corner myself. I know that if no one is targeting you, there is a reason why they are not targeting you. There's a reason why they are going away from you. And for that to be the first tape that I saw, I was very impressed. I know that the only flaws I believe, and I say quote unquote flaws because that's in the eye of the beholder, whoever is breaking the film down. They talked about the double move potentially being an issue, but I just don't see
He'll
him.
get his eyes kind of on the quarterback and
Right,
a little too much. That's what I kind of seen too. But
right.
man, I trust our coaches.
Yeah, I think our coaches that can be coached, right? And like
Yeah.
in certain instances, if you're playing zone, if you're playing like a cover three, all you got to do is drop back and make sure nobody gets behind you, right? And you are going to have your eyes on the quarterback, just watching where he's going with the ball. So I don't think it's a situation where Cam Taylor-Britt is going to have any issues there. I think that this guy, like you said, the biggest thing about playing corner is really that confidence. You have to be confident in your abilities. You have to have a short-term memory because you're going to get beat. There's going to be times that you're going to get beat, but it's how you come back from that, and it's how many wins that you get. And I think Cam Taylor-Britt is going to get more wins than losses at the position.
Yeah, and even with that as a weakness, like where he can kind of get caught staring at the quarterback too long, he has phenomenal closing speed and makeup speed, and his long speed of being a 4-3 guy. So, I mean, even his little knocks are not that knocks. So I think he's a very coachable player. Another captain we see that continue to be a theme, building the culture. Um, so that kind of takes us into Carter. Do you got a little more time? I know I said 20 minutes. Can
Yeah,
we?
nah, you're good, bro. Carter was my favorite pick of the draft. Like I was talking about Carter. Actually, I learned about him because I was doing prime and all of these calculations, and finally got to the part where I calculated the top three tech, right? Because that was obviously a position of need for this team. Learned about the five tech role. So, like, the funny thing is, BJ Hill, it seems, would actually be our three tech. We actually needed a five tech, which is what he did, which was kind of backing up Larry Ogunjobi last year, right? So that's where Zach Carter, I believe, just from my opinion, will play. He could play either one. But I think Zach Carter, bro, is just that was the guy I couldn't believe Bengals Twitter was like kind of killing. And I think that it was really based on solely one of the experts in the draft giving him like a fifth or sixth round pick, right? I collect data from a lot of sources, bro. NFL.com, all of it. They all had him as a fourth round pick. So to take a guy when you're picking in the third, and I said this on our show, all of our picks were really in the next round. The first was in the second, the third was in the fourth, the fifth, and so on and so forth. So to me, it wasn't really a reach. Like, okay, if we go two more picks, we're in the fourth round. If this guy was supposed to go there, all right. But the thing that really stuck out about him to me was when I was putting in the data for like the production, the sack numbers for all of the guys that were supposed to be three techs, those sack numbers were not good, bro. Like there wasn't a lot of consistency between anybody. So he stuck out. When I saw his sack numbers, I'm like, all right, well, who is this guy? Then I see that he plays in the SEC. And as soon as I finished that calculation and he was like far and away the best fit for the Bengals based off of what they did, I turned on the tape. And I was like, whoa, this dude is a mod. Like I literally tweeted about him, and I think Matt Minnick said something, and I was like, bro, if we end up with this guy, like I didn't even want to jinx it. If we end up with this guy, I am all in because I had heard about Perrion. I had obviously heard about the guy out of Georgia as well. And I was just like, this dude is it, bro. Like I was watching him on that film and I was just like, this dude can play inside, outside. Like he just looked to me to be a monster. And then I believe Matt Minnick come out with his video against Evan Neal where he just embarrassed that guy.
Yeah, I've
And
seen that.
I just can't see why so many people were just like, oh, he's just not good. Like to get sacks and to get pressure is just a thing that not everyone can do. And when you really look at, I went back to SIS and I looked at like the pressure rate. I looked at guys that, drew the most holds. I looked at guys that got the quickest pressure. He's like in all of those categories.
Yeah.
And so like over guys that were taking over him. So I really think that this guy is going to really shock a lot of people. And then they'll come around and be like, man, this guy's a dog. But I love the potential of him. He was actually my favorite pick of the draft for sure.
It took me less than 24 hours to turn my thoughts around because, like, I was live on with Iceman, like, when the pick came in, and I just shut the computer down because I was all in on Winfrey, like, because, I'm like, but I shut it down. I got off there. I laughed. I was going to get off there anyways, but so I wasn't really mad. I was, like, messing with him more than anything. But I was like, I don't want to say anything right now. I want to do a little more research. I had him ranked. I still had him fourth round, but I had him ranked as a defensive end. Like in his production scores and his relative athletic scores and stuff, when you plug him in as a defensive end. So that's but when you put him at three tech and you watch him when he slid inside and played three tech, it's like this dude's a freaking monster.
Yeah,
So it took
for
me less than
me,
24 hours to change my mind and be like, holy shit, I think we got to steal with that guy too.
no, and I don't blame you, bro, because everything we heard about was about Perry on Winfrey and all of that. And for me, until I actually put in like the sack numbers, I had the same kind of thoughts as everybody else. It was like, all right, yeah, Devontae Wyatt, Perry on Winfrey, like who else? Like we got to get three tech early. And then when I came across him, I'm like, how is this? What?
Hidden gem, man. Hidden gem. Like,
For
and he
sure.
does. He stands out completely. Like when you put him as a defensive tackle, it's like, oh yeah, you all really
Yeah,
let
like
us just get this guy 8.5 sacks last season.
the only guy I saw that came that outproduced him slightly was Lil, and I liked Lil,
I
but
did
Lil
too.
also had some off the field issues and character concerns, and he wasn't available. Right, he wasn't available at the time. So no, I'm with you, bro. Like honestly, it's funny that you say that because when I first heard the Cam Taylor-Britt thing happen, when they traded up, I thought that they were going to take Drake Jackson because I was like, all right, Drake Jackson's there. Like, there's
Yeah.
been a run on
He's
edges.
like
This is
20
for
years old, his youth
right,
too, with like
right.
his
So I'm like,
upside. Yeah.
man, and they're like Cam Taylor-Britt, and at first I was like, but I was like, not bad. Honestly, not bad because I was like, I remember the name. I remember him being a pretty solid pick, so I wasn't mad at it. And then they made up for it when they went and got my boy Carter after that. So
Yeah.
I was with it for sure.
The only thing I have with Taylor-Britt, and like I did predict that on Ice's show for the pre-draft, so I was like, oh, I could take my victory lap with that one because Derek had predicted the Daxton Hill, so I was like, I'm never going to hear the end of that. So it was good to get one back, but where he's played corner and safety, so it was like and we brought Hill and we've got Bell and we've got Bates still, but I do think just with his speed, athleticism, his long arms, that he's going to be an outside corner. I don't have any doubts
Yeah.
about it, but I think that was part of the
The
process for a
initial
lot of
thought,
people.
everybody
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like, "No,
yeah.
you're right." Because the place where I pulled some data from as well, which I do like two things. So I take whatever they say he is, and then I actually take what the Bengals say each player is, right? And so at first I
Right.
was freaking out because it said safety, but in my side it said DB. It was like he could play corner. He's got the size to play all of that. Then I dug more into it, and like you said, I looked and saw like, all right, he's had enough snaps at corner for him to actually play corner. But yeah, it at first did seem like another safety. It really almost, not to say that it was the same thing because these guys were busts, but it almost seemed like the year of 2015 when they take Cedric Ogbuehi and it's like, all right,
Yeah,
offensive
or they
tackle,
take
like
guys a little too early, instead of
offensive tackle, like we have Witt and we have said, and then they come back again, and it's like Jake Fisher. It's like offensive tackle again. It
yeah,
almost was that until people realized that no, this guy is definitely mostly a corner that can play
yeah.
safety, but yeah, it's
And
not
he's
like
going to
that.
compete with Eli to be corner two right off the bat, and it never hurts to
Facts.
have depth. Like it's a good pick. It's just sometimes that initial shock, and that's why it's always like I try to say less right right when it
Right.
first happens, unless it's somebody like a Dax Hill that's just like, oh shit, that's the best player available. Let's
Right.
go. You know, fourth round, that's another one. I try to keep my mouth shut as much as possible on Volson. I still got some people. I had him rated as a 6th rounder. I rated him as a tackle. Once again,
Bro,
because he's six
I
six
had
three
to go
fifteen. He
back
was listed at
to
6'7". When I scouted him last
right.
year, because I thought he would come out, because he's a
Mhm.
very older senior. Like he went back for maybe a 6th year or something with the extra year eligibility. So I had him last year, scouted him a little bit, and I'm like, this guy's listed at 6'7". He's got to play tackle. Like
Right.
he's too big and plays
He's
too
too
upright.
tall. Right.
Yeah, that leverage against guys like Donald is what worried me.
Right. No, I'm
I
with
don't
you,
hate the
bro.
pick though. I just,
Yeah.
that's my concerns, and I hated picking a tackle and then moving him to guard because we just did that last year. I was more wanting like an actual guard to compete at left guard.
Yeah, if
But
we're
what's your
talking
thoughts on
about
Volson?
like draft reactions, like knee jerk reactions, I felt like that was the worst pick of the draft initially. I was just like, what are
Same.
they doing? Like, especially with Kennard, who was a guy that was available, a guy that by all metrics, if you looked around PFF, this guy had an elite 3-year average. Like he could easily play that. He had the athleticism to play there. And I just did not expect them to take that guy. Like I had to go back. He was not on my prime board at all because what I did was I filtered out. I had like 500 guys in the raw data. I
Yeah.
filtered out obviously anyone that was going to be undrafted. And I guess he got caught up in that shuffle. Not saying that he was supposed to be undrafted, but he just kind of got caught up
Right.
in that. So I
Yeah.
had to go back to the raw data and look at like the wingspan, look at, his age, like you said, look at his arm length. And I was like, all right, but just like you said, like they kind of put a cap on how tall guys are that play guard. And that's the only thing that worries me.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Michael Jordan was a guy that was kind of tall as well. That was one of the
Yeah.
things that kind of
He
messed up
was.
his leverage.
He was 6'6", just like this guy.
Yeah, bro.
Like
So,
a legit 6'6", a little over.
and
Both of
that
them.
was the thing for me, like to take that guy over a guy that, dominated in the SEC, was from
Yeah.
Ohio, right? Uh,
Well,
I
and
just
then
was kind
Sawyer
of
too from
flabbergasted,
Georgia.
but then I'm just like, I'll just trust the process.
Yeah.
I never
Same.
played offensive line. I respect offensive line. I know how important it is, but I'm not gonna act like I am an offensive line expert.
Right.
So I'm just hoping that Frank Pollock and those guys just know something that we don't when it comes
Yeah.
to this guy.
And I mean, he might just be one of those mean, nasty guys. And we saw how much we improved the line and like just that other competition we'll see. Like, that's why I don't want to hate on. And once he's a Bengal, it's like, hey, I hope he's a Hall of
Yeah,
Famer. But you can
exactly.
only do knee jerk reactions with the draft. And like, that's one that I thought, based on where we had him and a lot of other people, that it was kind of a reach. But, other than that, I hope he crushes it now. He's on our squad. So,
Right, for sure, for sure.
and
And
then
I think that was didn't they trade up for him? Was he,
no,
or
that
was
was the
that the
next
safety?
one. That's what I was
Okay,
going to
so
jump
I'll say
into.
this. Even though if I'm gonna use the whole thing for the Zach Carter, I guess I gotta use it for this guy too, because maybe it's a fifth just because it's a couple of picks before the fifth round. But maybe that's another way to look at it. But like you
Yeah,
said, once you're a Bengal, once you're in stripes, I'm going to support you. I'm
yeah,
going to hope for the best. And it is what it is. Like we'll see 3 years from now, because there's plenty of guys that went in this range, like Clint Bowling, that ended up being pretty good players.
yeah, for sure. But he came from Georgia and was supposed to be a second round pick.
Yes.
I don't know. So
Yes.
I saw some similarities with some other guys there, but we'll find out in a few years. And I kind of had my heart set on Calvin Austin the third from
For
Memphis to give
sure.
us a little return juice and stuff
For
like
sure.
that. Then he went to the Steelers, so it's like I hate that guy now. No offense, but personally, but I can't root for you, man.
Yeah, man. I wanted Pickens and Calvin Austin the third. I thought definitely that we'd be able to get a receiver. And when that did not happen, I was kind of like, okay, but I think
Yeah.
that they have a plan.
Yeah, for sure. So then Anderson that we talked about from Toledo traded up for. So I had him rated as a third, fourth round guy. So I was happy with it. Like I was kind of like initially it's like, oh, another safety. I don't know about that. But then I'm like, but he's good. And I remember like he plays all special teams. Like Dane Brugler was all over that. He's a very smart, like academically accomplished guy. Like just everything that fits our culture. Like Dane Brugler had him as a 2-time captain. He told the media he's actually a 3-time captain. So it's like that fits everything we want. And this guy's and another 4.36, as we see, that's our third guy with all this speed and the secondary versatility and can move around and play him everywhere. But he's going to kick ass on special teams.
Yeah, I definitely have heard things about him from Jake of Bengals Post that's on the Wincinnati network. He actually knows the coach from Toledo and got some insight on him and just said that this guy's a hard worker, and his best football is ahead of him. He's going to be a monster. He's just hardworking guy. He's going to bring his lunch pail every day. And from what I've heard on him, I think that this is a guy that you definitely should keep an eye on.
For sure. And they traded up for a second time. People are like, what are they doing? They traded up 8 spots. And for them, that's a big trade up, 8 spots. Sometimes they like to do a couple spots or so, but 8 spots is a big trade up. Second trade up. But I was all for it because I didn't see the holes on the roster before the draft. So I said, why is everyone saying we're going to trade down at 31? Because
Right.
you lose the fifth year option. Plus, where are these guys going to play? So
Right.
6 draft picks to me. You gave up a 6th and a 7th. You moved up in 2 rounds. You got 2 guys you like. I wish
Yeah, I
we do
wasn't
that
mad
more
with it at
often.
all.
Yeah.
Wasn't mad at all.
And then we'll get our last guy. I want to get you out of here. I've taken way too much of your time, and I apologize for that. Jeffrey
No, you're good,
Gunter,
bro.
already fan favorite, Coastal Carolina. The guy's all over the place on social media. Shout out to his mom, who I think is following the Bengals and Brews account. Seems like an awesome lady. Another
Shout
guy
out to
who's
her.
very has a lot of academic accomplishments. I think he had a degree in economics, and I'm like, God, I hated economics in college. So you got a degree in that. I'm like, I respect that so much.
Yeah, for sure. I took an economics class, getting my MBA. My wife actually just took one now, and we all do not like economics. We have that in common. So, but about Jeffrey Gunter, he was the first guy from Coastal Carolina since Jerome Simpson, right? And I think that he is going to be a guy that brings something to that edge room. Edge, I feel like they had to pick up in this class just as kind of an insurance policy to get some more depth behind what they have in that room right now. I always felt like when we had guys that were at the end of the roster, like a Wyatt Ray or those guys, I always felt like we needed one more, like a Noah Spence. They had those guys, and they kind of ran out once they ended up getting some injuries. So I definitely think that this is a guy that's going to challenge, and he's got the athletic profile that's just insane. So I think that he's a guy that could definitely come in and contribute. Definitely one of the guys that I'll be watching during the preseason, which I love. I watch the entire game just to see the end of the roster and see how these guys stack up, because that's when you get a really long look at them. And so I'll definitely be watching him during preseason, and I think that he has a legit shot to make the roster.
I do too. 4'7", 40, like everything about the guy's athletic profile is impressive. Seems like an impressive kid too. I know he transferred at one point, so he's a little on the older side if somebody wanted to knock anything. And like
there was a lot of those guys though between COVID and everything. There was a lot of like 24-year-olds. I saw that I was like, man, there's a lot of 24-year-olds. Like, are my numbers right here? Like, did I get the right birthdays? Because there's a lot of 24-year-olds in this draft class. But I think between COVID and guys staying and getting that extra year, they just took advantage of it. And so I'm not even upset at that. It was another thing that happened with Hayden Hurst, which is why he was so old. Because I remember looking, and I was like, Hayden Hurst just got drafted in 2018. How is this guy like almost 30? Like, what? This doesn't.
He was a pro baseball player.
Yeah. So I didn't know that part about him. So I was just like, all right, well, I don't. Now you can kind of tell I don't really watch baseball like that, right? It's one of the.
I don't either. I just
remember
in his draft profile. Like,
gotcha. And I remembered him being on the Ravens. I remember them being upset, like on AFC North when they traded him. And I was just like, Hayden Hurst is out there. Like, oh, let's go ahead and get Hayden Hurst, because Hayden Hurst was a first round pick. So when you get those guys that are 24, that might be the downside of it, right? But right now within this window,
in the mid to late rounds, especially, like,
yeah,
what are you really? You're nitpicking at that point if you talk about
unless it's like Brandon Weeden or something like that. All right, that's when you gotta worry.
First round pick. People took him in the first round. I was like, what are you doing? There's a guard from Baylor before too that like the Jets took. Can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he was also like that. And it's like, what do you do? First round pick. But I wanted to kind of end before plugging this, and I thought maybe we could you could plug everything here at the end, mix in the interview with Aditi. I thought was phenomenal that you guys did, and then this might not come out until after. I'm pretty sure you guys had an interview with Mike Hilton. So
yes, actually, as we're recording
this, let you talk about those two things, plug everything, and I'll get you out of here. And
yeah, man, Aditi is just a legend. I mean, the way that she was able to come on, she actually kept us on our toes. Like, none of the stuff like that was the script was stuck to in that one. But she was just a consummate professional. She's amazing at what she does. And Mike Hilton, man, I can't wait for that one tonight. As we're recording this, hopefully by the time you guys hear it, it lives up to the expectations, and we're able to uncover some things. But I can't wait to talk to Mike Hilton. It's going to be a fun time on the Wincinnati podcast. And if you guys are listening, please be sure to subscribe to the Wincinnati podcast on YouTube. Check us out in the Apple stores. Share it if you can. Leave us a review, and also be sure to support these guys here, man. Bengals and Brews. If you're not tapped in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't just give them that phantom view where it's like, I'm viewing, but I'm not subscribing. Give these guys the credit that they deserve. Hit that subscribe button and support the Who Dey community, because of you guys, we're able to be on these platforms, speak on all of this stuff, and do things that we love, and just really spread the knowledge and the love of Bengals Nation.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better, Ace. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for joining. Who Dey?
Who Dey?